TII, item 478, February 28th, 2019, iOS 12.1.4 and 12.2 betas 2 and 3.
Welcome to Today in iPhone.
I like it a lot.
Today in iPhone.
Hey, Google!
Oh, yeah.
My beautiful iPhone, which I never have out of my hand and that I do everything with and has become an extension of who I am.
Today's episode is brought to you by Eero. To get $100 off the Eero base unit and 2 beacons package and 1 year Eero Plus, please visit Eero.com/TII and at checkout enter promo code TII. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Rob, and you are listening to the Today in iOS podcast. First up, I want to thank Jeff for sending in the music here in the background. Jeff wrote, "Hi, Rob. I made this song Backbone using the Garageband app on my iPhone. For free download to more music, follow me at JeffJ6 on Twitter. Regards, Jeff J." Well, thanks, Jeff, for the music. And folks, I will put the full song at the end of this episode. I also want to thank Tim for sending in the artwork for today's show. Tim wrote the following. "Hi, Rob. I was recently in Lansing, Michigan for my nephew's wedding, and since I have been having issues with some touchscreen locking issues, I thought I'd give the store a visit to see what my options were. The picture of the store is the Apple Eastwood Town Center store. The service was 5 stars. Although they were unable to fix my issue, they did remove the back, reset the touchscreen connections, lightened all the screws that might have loosened up from drops, cleaned out any dirt and fuzz in the lightning port, and gave me directions on where and how to send my phone off to get replaced. Seems my iPhone 6 Plus is covered under a common screen lock issue for only $149. Most likely will get refurbished replacement. Picture was shot at night with my slightly disabled 6 Plus phone, and editing was with Apple's built-in photo editing app. Regards, Tim." Well, thanks, Tim, for sending this in. And folks, you can see this artwork in the free TII app via the bonus button for episode 478 or at Instagram.com/todayinios and also at Facebook.com/todayinios. If you have any artwork or music that you would like to share with the audience that you have created on iOS device, just email to me at todayinios@gmail.com, and please make sure to include which app or apps you use to create said artwork and or music. Back in early February, Apple had a little bit of a black eye because of a bug in FaceTime where if you were creating a FaceTime conference call and added a user, you could actually hear the other user before they answered, which if the other person was to say, "Crap, my SOB, boss, wife, husband, client, whoever is calling, I have to take this," well, it could have been a wee bit embarrassing to say the least. The bug was reported first by a 14-year-old boy, Grant Thompson, and his mother, Michelle, and Apple jumped all over it and instantly fixed the issue. Or maybe not, but they have since fixed it after word got out about the issue. But Apple first disabled group calls, then rolled out a fix with iOS 12.1.4, which was released back on February 7th. But I think it is very interesting a 14-year-old discovered this first, or at least reported it first, and that Apple formally credited him with finding the issue and said they will compensate his family with a gift towards his education. Hey, Tim, how about you pull a few strings and get Grant into Stanford? Now, that would be a nice compensation. I felt watching the press coverage of this was pretty funny. There were a lot of the sky is falling type posts. Then people realized that Apple turned off the ability to do group calls, and then Apple rolled out an update. So I think while embarrassing for Apple and for anyone that might have said something inappropriate right before they answered, it really showed how quickly, once public, Apple could fix an issue. Granted, it probably should have been addressed a little quicker by Apple internally, should not have even been known publicly until it was fixed. But that, I am sure, is something Apple is looking into internally on the process side. Because, I mean, how big a bug could it really be if it was found by a 14-year-old, right? Said very sarcastically, very, very sarcastically for any new listeners. Grant, if you're listening out there, kudos to you. Again, some Apple haters were happy to beat up Apple on, quote, how long it took them to respond to this bug, unquote. And the timeline on this was January 19th, Grant discovered the bug. Sunday, January 20th, Grant's mom, Michelle, sends a video to Apple showing the bug in action. A week later, Apple disabled the FaceTime chat feature, and on February 7th rolled out an update, iOS 12.1.4, with the fix. Could Apple have responded quicker? Maybe, probably, but not much faster. And from some of the posts I've read, they make it sound like inside Apple, they might have been downplaying the issue because it was coming from a 14-year-old. There have been reports in the past, however, of security bugs that took Apple months to address, coming in from development companies and white hats. Those are hackers that do things for good reasons. So I don't buy the argument they dismissed it because it was a 14-year-old. But whatever the issue, it does seem that 1 week to turn off a major feature and less than 3 weeks to roll out a double dot update is faster than you would get from any other OS out there. Not that there are many. Per some trying to ping Apple on privacy around this issue, it was a bug. B-U-G, bug. It was not an entire OS built from the ground up to sell your data to advertisers. Android, cough, Android. In an interview this past week with NPR, Tim Cook says acquiring user data to sell ads is something his company has avoided. Quote, people will look at this and feel that they can trust Apple, unquote. Apple does not sell user data. Remember, with Apple, you are the customer. You are not the product. This becomes really important when you start talking health data and when you're talking podcasting for that matter. There are companies out there now stalking IP addresses to look at all the sites you visit and guess what your demos are and then target ads to you on podcasts. This is something, thankfully, Apple does not support or give data back to, and something that we don't do at Libsyn. Only 17% of the people surveyed found that targeted ads were ethical. That means, yes, 83% of people found targeted ads unethical. Apple's on the right side of this issue, but they definitely had a bug, and it definitely was embarrassing. I want to quickly jump into the email bag. Hi, Rob. I don't know if this is news to you, but just sharing that some users may have issues with the new iOS 12.1.4 update. My Yahoo email using the iOS native mail app stopped working. It returns a can't get mail error. I reset network settings to no avail, then did a full reset, also to no avail. So I deleted Yahoo account in passwords and accounts and tried add account. I chose Yahoo as an account type from the templates already built in the mail app. It launches, but the process fails with the Yahoo servers. api.login.yahoo.com hangs up and then times out. Not to be thwarted by a silly API interface issue, I tried the other method. After manually entering all of the IMAP data per Yahoo's online instructions, it failed due to authentication issues. I used second sign-in verification for Yahoo, and it worked fine before. I have them text me a 4 alpha character code to authenticate. Even that failed. So I'm sharing in the spirit of communication. By the way, I also have Google Mail account, and I tried that Mail app API, and that doesn't even launch. So now I'm using Yahoo's Mail app instead of the native iOS app. Maybe there's a bug in the Mail app for now. Best regards, Paul G. in Lawrenceville. Paul, thanks for the heads up on that. I'm not sure if you've got your issue fixed yet or not. I have not heard that issue from anyone else. I did not see that issue with any of the devices that I upgraded to 12.1.4. And per iOS 12.1.4, it was not just about fixing the FaceTime bug. It also had fixes for issues with Foundation and IOKit that, according to Ben Hawks, a security researcher, could be used to hack iOS devices in the wild. There were also other various security and bug fixes in iOS 12.1.4. Again, all of this beyond just the fixing of the FaceTime issue. While we heard from Paul G about issues, most people reported no issues at all, and others that did have issues reported reset network settings. Shocker, fixed the issues. But Paul tried that and didn't fix it for him. I have not had any issues again, and most reports are due to the security patches that were added, saying that this one should be updated. So I guess at this point, it's best to say release the hounds and update now. Although there was, and I'll put the caveat here, there was some issues with a few people on Sprint having connectivity issues. So Paul, I'm not sure if you're on Sprint or not, but there were some people having data issues on Sprint. So outside of Sprint, though, I haven't heard of anyone having any issues with iOS 12.1.4. Apple also released a couple of betas for iOS 12.2. Beta 2 was released on February 4th, and Beta 3 about 2 weeks later on the 19th of February. With Beta 2, Apple AirPlay audio or video icon now appear in the tile. So in other words, in the upper corner of the tile on the screen, you can see either an audio icon or a video icon. There were also a beta updates for Classroom 3.0 for the iPad. And so exciting, he says with heavy sarcasm, is the addition of 4 new Animojis with Beta 2. I am just beside myself with excitement. With Beta 3, there is an updated About screen where info is better organized in a more logical manner versus the previously, I guess, just throw it all up there on the screen method, which is what the old one looks like. And in that list under About, you can tap on applications now, and it lists the apps that will not work with iOS 11 or later. There was some more tweaks to the Apple TV remote design. And one thing I had not mentioned is in the Apple Podcast app with iOS 12.2 betas, Apple finally supports episode numbers. This is really nice when using VoiceOver. Now tapping on an episode, it will say the name of the show, then the date, and then the episode number, followed by the episode title. This was a feature that was long overdue. Very, very glad to see this one added. It was actually one feature I had submitted multiple times to Apple as a bug that they did not, saying they didn't support it and that they needed to support the numbers, and even received a little thanks from Apple on pushing for this feature. So, yay, helped a little bit there. Sadly, Apple looks to have removed the version number for the Apple Podcast app, which means I will have to look even more closely to see if there's updates with each new version. There was also updates for watchOS 5.2 betas 2 and 3 and updates for tvOS 12.2 betas 2 and 3. In all of those 4 updates, it was about bug fixes and optimizations. Finally, on February 21st, Apple released Shortcuts 2.2 Beta 2. And really, they should have released that on February 22nd. Then it would have been Shortcuts 2.2 Beta 2 released on 2/22. Apple, I find your lack of symmetry disturbing. This update seems to be about, you guessed it, bug fixes and optimizations. And that gets us through the Apple updates for February. Apple had their quarterly call at the end of January, and well, nothing really exciting, given that Apple warned in early January of targets that would be missed and basically where they were going to come in. Apple's overall revenue was $84.3 billion for the previous quarter, and that was a 5% decline versus the same quarter a year earlier. However, Apple made more money off that revenue with an earnings per share at $4.18, up 7.5% from the year earlier. So revenue declined 5%, but earnings per share increased 7.5%. They're selling less product, but with a higher profit margin. iPhone revenue was hit the most with a 15% decline year over year, and most of that because of sales in China and other developing countries that were down. And Tim did say some of that decline was because of exchange rate changes that made the iPhone even more expensive. And, quote, I do think that price is a factor, unquote, according to Tim Cook. So, yes, that is Tim saying that maybe, just maybe, we reached the end of that price elasticity band. It would sure be nice for Apple to bring prices down a little bit for 2020. But please don't mistake my saying it would be nice for Apple to bring down prices with me saying that I think Apple will bring down prices. iPad revenue did grow 17% year over year, so iPad sales did well. I still have my kids bugging me for a new iPad Pro. They really, really want the new iPad Pro. I mentioned on the last episode I purchased an Eero mesh network for my parents for Christmas, and it made their Ring doorbell work great, when previously it really didn't work, basically at all. You know who owns Ring? Amazon. And guess who just acquired Eero? Correct, Amazon. They saw how great those products work together, I guess, as well. Congrats to the folks at Eero on the acquisition. For those new to the show, Eero, E-E-R-O, makes a Wi-Fi mesh network for your home. And as I mentioned on a previous episode, Eero offers you the fastest Wi-Fi I've ever tested, and is why my house is the house where kids and neighbors come to play Fortnite. This is the second generation Eero unit, which added a third 5 gigahertz radio, and it is a mesh network just like at office buildings, but now for your home. You only need to hardwire connect the base unit, and then the beacons you just plug into any wall outlet, and they even have a nightlight. Never think about Wi-Fi again. To get $100 off the Eero base unit and 2 beacon package and 1 year of Eero Plus, please visit eero.com/TII. And at checkout, enter promo code TII. With Eero Plus, you get total network protection with the ability to block malicious and unwanted content across your entire network. You can get advanced security, content blocking, and ad blocking. Eero even automatically pushes out software updates that make sure you have the latest security protection for your home network. And the units also have a new thread radio for lower power devices, like I mentioned, my parents' Ring doorbell, or for other Wi-Fi enabled IoT devices. Again, to get $100 off the Eero base unit and 2 beacon package and 1 year of Eero Plus, please visit eero.com/TII, and at checkout, enter promo code TII. Said before, this is the best Wi-Fi I have ever tested or heard of. Thanks, Eero, for supporting the show and for giving me lightning fast internet connection here at the house. I mentioned earlier, and many times before, that Apple cares about user data. So much that Apple, the end of last month, revoked Facebook and Google's enterprise developer certificates for violating Apple rules. In short, with Facebook, they were paying teens $20 a month to install an app that then sucked all of the data out of their phone on what the teens were doing. And this app was an app Apple had previously banned, and Facebook repackaged and distributed via their enterprise account. When Apple was made aware of that, well, Apple did what they do, and they yanked their certificate, killing that app and other internal apps at Facebook. Apple did eventually turn the certificates back on after that one app was killed. Then it wound up that Google was doing almost the same thing with their ScreenWise app, and Apple brought down the ban hammer on Google too. So yes, no one, and I mean no one, is safe from the Apple ban hammer. See, Facebook and Google were not just distributing the apps to their employees, but they were also sending them out to consumers. And Apple said the following, quote, "Any developer using their enterprise certificates to distribute apps to consumers will have their certificates revoked, which is what we did in this case to protect our users and their data," unquote. While I think companies should be freer to install internal apps, what Google and Facebook did was distribute apps to some consumers that both gathered lots and lots of personal data and reported it back to Google and Facebook. Some give Apple grief for being so heavy-handed, but again, Google and Facebook are not Apple customers. We are. So yeah, Google and Facebook should have, and very likely did know better, so don't shed any tears for them.
Hey Rob, my name is Zach, and I recently heard in your show about iPhone 10, 10s, and 10s Max issues on the Sprint carrier. I just wanted to comment on that. I got my iPhone 10 this previous summer, and it was working fine, and ever since the first installment of iOS 12, its service, as in picking up signal, was really bad, and it was even, in fact, they would tell me that there were full bars of LTE, but it couldn't load one web page. So we were taking it into Apple. They told me to get a new SIM card. I did that, and I'm still having issues. I mean, I pretty much couldn't use it unless I was on Wi-Fi. I came in again, and it was still under warranty, and they replaced my phone. I don't know if other people could do that. And ever since then, it's been working fine for me. My service has been perfectly fine. But that was my issue. And also, I wanted to know what your thoughts were on the new iPod Touch and how long you think you're going to keep updating those. Thank you. Have a good day.
Zach, thank you for the feedback. And per your question there at the end, about the iPod Touch. We don't have a new iPod Touch yet. We're still on the old iPod Touch 6th generation with the A8 processor. So we're currently on the A12, but the most recent iPod Touch is the one with the A8. So it is overdue. Been a lot of speculation that it will get updated some point this year, but there was speculation it'll get updated last year and the year before. So who knows what Apple wants to do with this? I think it's a good idea to have an iPod Touch as a standalone device that people can use for kids, for just working out, whatever it is. There's still a good use for it, but it's not the top case scenario. Again, most people are going to use their iPhone and or their Apple Watch in places where you would have used a standalone iPod. But I do hope they continue with it. It's a nice little game machine. It'd be nice to see an update with an A12 or an A11 processor. It is a little long in the tooth as far as the current processor goes, and I can't see iOS 13 supporting it, but we'll see. Into the email bag we go. Hi, Rob. I noticed in a recent episode you mentioned you use Google Storage to back up your iPhone, pictures, etc. I am curious why Google Storage over other cloud storage solutions like iCloud, Dropbox, Box, etc. I have free space on all of them and also on OneDrive and have stuff spread out, but eventually would like to consolidate. Love your show. Regards, LF. Well, simple answer. I get 1 terabyte of free cloud storage with my Google Fiber account. So I use that account for backing up my photos, movies, and I have it set up to automatically do so. I also have a 200 gig iCloud account. I pay $3 a month for that I use for my Apple documents and other Apple ecosystem services that need iCloud, but not for photos and movies. So backups, but not photos and movies. Essentially, Google Storage is for photos and movies. iCloud is for everything else. Back to the email bag we go. Hi, Rob. Wanted to chime in on all the AirPod discussion. Regarding the connection issues, I would recommend resetting, repairing the AirPods whenever mine have gotten janky. Resetting them sets them all right again. With the AirPods in the case and the top open, press and hold the button on the back of the case until the LED turns white. Then go through the pairing process. Should be better, just like the reset network settings. Regards, Mike. Well, thanks, Mike, for that feedback. And we also have another email here. Hi, Rob. On Christmas Day, I upgraded from my iPhone 6S to the 10S and gave my old phone to my son. Since then, I have noticed problems with my phone connecting on calls from my basement. I've never had this issue or problem with my 6S. After a little searching about the problem, I learned this may be related to Intel radio chips, as Apple no longer is using Qualcomm radios. Is this true? If so, what can I do about it? I'm very disappointed in this aspect of the phone's performance. I bought both phones unlocked from the Apple Store and continue to have AT&T service. Thanks for your help. Regards, Rob in San Diego, Qualcomm country. Well, Rob, first thing I would say is go to the Apple Store and let them know you're having these connectivity issues. Have them check it out and see what they find with it. You should be working fine. AT&T, you should have a good, strong signal from AT&T, but again, it does vary from city to city, even area to area in each city. But yes, there is truth about Qualcomm radio chips, but it's not about connectivity with the Qualcomm chips. It's more about speed, throughput. So the download and upload speeds tend to be faster with the Qualcomm chips versus the Intel chips. Again, I would recommend setting up a Genius Bar appointment and bringing your iPhone to your local Apple Store and have them check it out to make sure everything is working as it should be. FYI, this one is for those Fortnite players. You can now use your Bluetooth controllers with your iOS device, kind of, sort of. For example, if you have the Nimbus Steel Series controller that you bought for your Apple TV, you can also use them with your iPad or iPhone and play Fortnite, as long as you are not playing solo or with only iOS mobile users. So you need to be in duos or with someone in squads on a console or desktop. Epic Games does not want to give you an advantage over other mobile-only players. So I guess I get that. My kids have been using the Nimbus controller when one is on the Nintendo Switch or the Xbox, and then the other is on the iPad. Or what happens, or seems to happen most often lately, is when they have a squad of 4, and one's on the Switch, one's on the Xbox One, and then the 2 are on iPad Pros. This way, all of them are using controllers. Again, our house is where the kids come to play Fortnite in the neighborhood. It's always better to have at your house than you kids over at someone else's house. Anyway, I want to thank Porter and Henry, my kids, for giving me the info on how this works with the controllers. So thanks, guys, for contributing. I wanted to do a quickish recap of some recent rumors. First is one that's a little further out, and it is that TSMC will build the processor for the 2020 iPhone using 5 nanometer chips. That would be the A14 processor. Currently, we're on the A12, which is made with the 7 nanometer process. And rumors are this year's A13 chips will also be at the 7 nanometer process. The A13 chips are supposed to be made with the new ULV or UVL technology for a more microscopic layering process, which, according to a really exciting SlideShare presentation, means, quote, microprocessors made with UVL are much faster than today's most powerful chips, unquote. The downside is the entire process has to be carried out in a vacuum, and lower levels of contamination can really affect yields. In other words, look for someone to also find this SlideShare presentation, and then around June, say that yields are off and the A13 chips have yield issues and the next iPhones will be delayed, because those always work well for link bait. Note to self to come back to this episode in June and just mention this. In short, what I got out of the presentation and other articles I read is that for Moore's Law to continue, UVL is going to be required. And this year's A13 is looking likely to be the first mass-produced CPU using this process, which in theory means even though it's also at 7 nanometers, the A13 processor should be substantially faster than the A12, assuming yields don't get in the way. I was just on another episode of Commando on Demand with the incredible Kim Commando, and we talked about rumors and what is coming, and we talked a little bit about folding phones, and my opinion on them is that they are not ready for prime time in Apple's eyes. Huawei and Samsung both introduced sort of kind of folding phones with prices of $1,980 and $2,600 respectively. If Apple is going to introduce a folding phone, they're not looking at selling tens of thousands like Samsung and Huawei are, but rather they're looking at selling tens of millions. And right now, from what I read about the supply chain for folding screens, that volume of demand is not available yet to be fulfilled, and likely not for a couple of years. Steve Wozniak was quoted recently as saying, quote, Apple has been a leader for a significant long time in a few areas. For example, Contact ID, Face ID, and easy payment with phone. They're not the leader in areas like folding phones, and that worries me because I really want a folding phone, unquote. But him wanting one does not change the supply chain reality. And I agree with Woz. I want one too, but I don't see one this year or next year. Maybe 2021 if we are lucky. Maybe. There's a lot of work out there on the supply chain and reliability side of things before Apple is going to take the step to release something that they need to build in the tens of millions. Another item I talked with Kim about on her show was AirPods and what is next. Some of the rumors out there say the end of March, around the last week, Apple will have another event at the Steve Jobs Theater. And one of the things that will be introduced is AirPods, let's call them 1.5, essentially. It's going to be a wireless charging case, and also a black version of the current AirPods would be available. So you'd have both black and white, which makes a good cookie, by the way. Then in the fall, the AirPods 2.0 would be introduced. Black AirPods are definitely something I welcome as I get older, and get hair growing where I don't want it, nothing says old guy like black ear hair being highlighted by white AirPods. So it would be nice to have a black pair of AirPods. Along with black AirPods and a charging case that can be charged wirelessly is the charging mat. So the AirPower charging mat. And that is rumored to be coming out here at the end of March. Now, some other rumors are saying the AirPods 1.5 will not be introduced until June, and the AirPods 2.0 will be 2020. But one of the consistent rumors either way is that the 2.0 version will add more fitness tracking features and possibly even some level of water resistance. And additional rumors around the March event include iPad Mini 5. And the biggest part of the rumor is nothing, as in nothing changes on the outside. It would look the same as the current iPad Mini 4. All changes would be internal, with the bump up in processor to the A11. So just internal changes, which means it would still have a headphone jack and a home button. Yay! Kind of retro when you think about it. But if that is the case, it would be something Apple can keep priced on the lower side of the curve, which is needed. My wife still uses her iPad mini all the time, and she likes the size and how it fits in her purse. Some of the other rumors coming up around 2019 iPhone is that the top of the line version will have a USB-C port and not a Lightning port. It will have a much smaller notch and will have Touch ID under display. And not so much. The person starting these rumors has had a bad track record, but that did not keep a bunch of people from re-reporting it like I just did. Dang, link baited again. I think it's clear eventually Apple goes to USB-C for their ports, but I don't think it's this year. And definitely a no for Touch ID under display. A big no. What exactly does that buy you? Samsung released their new Galaxy S10, and how did it stack up against the XS? The one with an S at the end wins. Geekbench 4 overall results. The S10 Plus had a score of 10,732. The XS had a score of 11,420. Higher is better. Winner, XS. For video editing, it was not even close. Editing an Adobe Premiere clip, 2 minutes, 26 seconds. 2 minutes, 26 seconds for the the S10. And then with the XS, that was only 39 seconds. So the 2 minutes, 26 seconds for the S10, the XS from Apple, just 39 seconds. Ouch. The iPhone XS also beat it on Geekbench 4.1 single-core and multi-core tests, along with ANTUTU7 and GFX3 on and off screen, and GFX 3.1 on and off screen, and another half a dozen of awesome sounding tests which do not really convey what they do. In all, over a dozen speed tests and over a dozen victories for the iPhone XS. Way to go, Apple. And if the rumor about the EUVL is true, processing for the next processor for the A13, Apple could see a step up in performance later this year. We're only about 7.5 months out from the next gen iPhone. Hi, Rob. I join a lot of calls for work from my iPhone using my AirPods. I prefer to be on mute unless I need to speak, and I need to be able to mute and unmute quickly. To do this, every time I join a call, I go to Settings, Display, and Brightness, and then Auto Lock to change the setting to Never. Do you or any of your listeners have a way to automatically change the setting whenever I'm on a call and to have the settings revert when I'm off a call? Thanks, Ari from Madison, Wisconsin. Ari, I'm going to throw that one out to the audience. If anyone can help, Ari, please give us a call, 206-666-6364. That's 206-Moondog. Or send an email to todayinios@gmail.com. Back to the email. We'll go to the G Plus community. And this is from Gary T. And he asks, hi, guys and gals. Hope members can help. I'm looking for an app where I can easily send thank you e-cards to my friends and family. Do any of the members have any experience of this and can help? Thanks. And again, that was from Gary T. So if anyone can help Gary, again, give us a call or shoot us an email. And then finally in the email, I'll be back here. Hi, Rob. Love the show as usual. I should have written this earlier. With regards to Tim's statement as to why sales of the iPhones are down, He mentioned many reasons, but did you note he did not mention the price increase last year? Those are on top of increases the previous year. I think Apple's idea these days is setting a goal for top-line revenue, then simply adjusting prices up till the numbers of units multiplied by the price equals that number. I'm just a little tired of so-called journalists describing the 10R as the budget phone or the cheap phone. It was a $50 increase over the previous 8, which itself was a $50 increase over the previous 7. Isn't tech supposed to get cheaper? I guess it costs a lot of money to remove features. Yes, still angry about the headphone jack going away. Okay, rant over. Regards, Kevin B. Well, Kevin, I mentioned a little bit earlier in the episode where Tim did say in other markets, especially China and outside the U.S., that price, because of currency exchange, pricing for the iPhone relative to those markets became more expensive, and that Apple is looking at doing some changes to make those currency changes not hurt people outside the U.S. So short answer is he kind of said there's issues with pricing. He kind of notices it. We'll see what that means long term, if that means that Apple's going to regress on pricing. Again, I don't see that. But I hope it does mean we've actually finally reached peak pricing and that we're only going to hopefully have more options available at the lower side. Still need an iPhone SE 2 any day now. Please, Apple, maybe March, introduce that.
This is Charlie. I have an iPhone 6S, and I use VoiceOver. My brothers use Android phones, and I wanted to try one out for Christmas. You were right about how they are not accessibility friendly with blind people, and it was very frustrating scrolling through the pages because, like, when I would scroll up and down, it would accidentally select things where VoiceOver knows where, like, I don't know if there's a camera in the screen for VoiceOver so that it knows where your fingers are. I'm curious about that. But yeah, basically, VoiceOver is better, a lot better than Android is. So one other thing that I forgot to mention about Android and their accessibility thing, the apps aren't user-friendly like VoiceOver is. That's another downside of Android and Google. Anyway, bye.
Charlie, thank you for your feedback. And a quick little note here on IndieGogo project, and there's one called Gaze Tray, Gaze space Tray. And if you search for that, that is a charging tray where they have a place where there's coils to charge your iPhone, one place for your Apple Watch, and another for the future AirPods. Now, I don't know how they know what technology is going to be for the charging the AirPods, but this is available if you go to IndieGogo, and you have about less than 24 hours. So if you're hearing this and it's after March 1st, you're too late. So if you hear this on the 28th and you want to get this project, you can look at it. You'll probably be able to buy it later on. But there are more and more of these charging pads that are coming up since Apple's taken so long to get theirs out. So again, you can search for Gaze Tray, Gaze space Tray at IndieGogo. All right, time for a little Siri time. Hi, Rob. Ask Siri to tell you a funny joke. I laugh so hard. Regards, Aaron M. Well, thank you, Aaron, for that suggestion, and we'll give that a try. Tell me a funny joke.
I asked my new friend to meet me at the gym, but they never showed up. I guess the two of us aren't going to work out.
Tell me a funny joke.
A grasshopper walks into a bar. The bartender says, "Hey, we have a drink named after you." The grasshopper says, "You have a drink named Jeff?"
Tell me a joke.
A sloth got robbed by 3 turtles. When the police showed up, they asked, "What did they look like?" The sloth says, "I don't know. It all happened so fast."
Tell me a funny joke.
Why did the teddy bear turn down a slice of cake? Because it was stuffed.
Tell me a funny joke.
I just realized it's been years since I did the hokey pokey. I guess I forgot what it's all about.
Tell me a funny joke.
I was washing the car with a friend. until they said, "Can't you just use a sponge?"
Tell me a funny joke.
Two silkworms challenged each other to a race. It ended in a tie.
Tell me a funny joke.
When someone tells me to stop acting like a flamingo, that's when I put my foot down.
Tell me a funny joke.
I taught a wolf to meditate. Now he's a werewolf.
Tell me a funny joke.
What do you call a talking dinosaur? Thesaurus.
Tell me a funny joke.
What did the Buddhist monk say to the hot dog vendor? Make me one with everything.
Tell me a funny joke.
The past, present, and future walk into a bar. It was tense.
Tell me a funny joke.
Two drums and a cymbal fall off a cliff.
Tell me a funny joke.
I, for one, like Roman numerals.
Tell me a funny joke.
One night, I paid $20 to see Prince. But I partied like it was 1999.
Tell me a funny joke.
I got my best friend a fridge for her birthday. I can't wait to see her face light up when she opens it.
Tell me a funny joke.
Do you know what drives me buggy? Me horsey.
Tell me a funny joke.
Kid joke alert. Why is it impossible to play hide and seek with Pokemon? Because they always Pikachu.
Tell me a funny joke.
As soon as you find out someone has 10,000 bees, marry them. That's when you know they're a keeper.
Today's show was again brought to you by Eero, which is by far the fastest and best Wi-Fi I've ever tested. To get $100 off the Eero base unit and 2 beacons package and 1 year of Eero Plus, please visit eero.com/TII and at checkout enter promo code TII. And before we go today, I want to remind you to send in your feedback to the show, 206-666-6364. That's 206-MOONDOG. Or record your feedback and email to the show at todayinios@gmail.com. Feedback can be a question or comment for something someone said on this episode, or it can be a question or rant you have about something else, an app or product review, good or bad. As long as it is iOS related, it is welcomed. I'm always looking for new artwork to feature on the show that you've created on an iOS device. Just put some TII branding on it and send it in. And of course, we're always looking for more music created on an iOS device to play on the show. It's your show and your feedback is greatly desired. Also, don't forget to check out our moderated Google Plus community by going to todayinios.com/community. It'll be moving soon from Google Plus to, I think we're going to go to MeWe, but we'll see. And a quick reminder, if you are an app dev or an iBook author, email me if you want your app or iBook featured in the promo giveaway segment for free. We just need the 5 promo codes or more to give away, and then email those to me at todayinios@gmail.com, and please include a 60-second or less audio review of your app or iBook, indicating you are the dev or the author in that recording. Also, when you send in the promo codes, please make sure to let me know when they expire. Finally, check out the TI app, which is free to you. Search for TII in the iTunes App Store is the best way to consume the show and to get push notifications each time a new episode of TI is released. It is fully voiceover friendly, of course. Please go right now, download the TI app, or get the update. Until the next time, which probably be a couple weeks, I'm trying to get this to twice a month. I know it's been once a month the last couple of months. Sorry, been very, very busy in the podcast world. Well, anyway, until the next time, and hopefully in 2 weeks, I'm your host, Rob, reminding you to phone different. This show is hosted on Libsyn.com and part of the Libsyn Media Network. If you are looking for podcast hosting, go to Libsyn.com. That's LIBSYN.com for hosting for your podcast and creation of your own smartphone app. The Today in iOS podcast can be found everywhere you listen to podcasts. That includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Overcast, Stitcher, and everywhere else you listen to audio.